Hey friends, just a few minutes ago, US President Donald Trump finished his speech, his address at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Now, his messaging wasn't coercion, his messaging wasn't show of power, but it was a really, really big signal on what America is doing and where things are going. This video is all about my analysis on what he said and what it means for industries, for markets. And my name is Ian Khan, Futurist, and here we go with my analysis. So first of all, there was huge expectation coming out from President Trump's visit. His flight got delayed a couple of hours because of technical issues. They had to turn back, but they finally managed to fly off and then also land in Zurich a couple of hours late. There was a lot of anticipation, anxiety relating to his visit because of one topic, and that topic was not Ukraine, it wasn't Russia, it wasn't China. This time it was Greenland, because in the last few weeks, the conversations, the dialogues, the messaging about Greenland has really been very aggressive coming from the White House. And businesses have been looking at what's going on, large, small, medium businesses, global markets. Everybody's been looking at what is going to happen at Greenland. And also the fact that it looked like President Trump really was expected to announce that he would be using force to get Greenland and not negotiate. So I'm going to cover all of that in this video recap and my analysis of what I think happened and what will happen. So first of all, Davos is a place where every year the world's global leaders, the world's who is who in terms of business, decision makers, deal makers all end up. And I was in Davos last year, and it was pretty incredible to see the amount of activity, the amount of discussions, the amount of general agreements being signed, and the showcase of capability that takes place in Davos. Now, Davos is a very small town, about 2 hours train ride from Zurich, nestled in the mountains. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but also laid back. However, as a ski town, in Davos week, the entire town, and there's one main street there, that entire town is changed into a showcase. Every store in that street in Davos is converted into kind of a booth, or companies and countries and agencies take over those stores. Literally, they take over the stores, rebrand them, relabel them, and make them into their meeting zone, their event zone. And so the entire street, maybe 2 kilometers, a kilometer and a half, 2 kilometers long, is converted into a showcase. So you'll see country booths, you'll see country pavilions, and so on across the street. Davos is incredible, and I think it's a great place to meet people, know what is happening, why is it happening, and then also be in the know-how. So with that said, this year's 2026 World Economic Forum meeting and Davos Week in general has had the biggest US presence ever. President Trump spoke there, I believe, last time, and it was a virtual address. He spoke over the internet, online, but this time he flew in, and I believe there's about 3,000 different business leaders, top CEOs, about 300 CEOs from America are in Davos for Davos Week, just to showcase strength, just to make deals and talk to others from across the world. So the US has had a big presence in Davos. So let's go through things one by one. The first key takeaway is power over permission. President Trump really signaled that it was very important for America to have access to Greenland because of global geopolitical security. Like, that was it. There was nothing else. There's no rare elements, metals that President Trump is interested in, because he believes there's nothing there. He also believes the people of Denmark and Greenland owe him a debt, that they've been protecting them for almost 200 years, and that they were there for the people of Denmark and Greenland to protect them during the last World War. And how, if he didn't do that, everybody in Europe would be speaking German or Chinese, and he mentioned that. So he really kind of pressed some emotional triggers when it comes to why he wants what he wants. He also the biggest reason, again, he said, was geopolitical security, and that to have Greenland, he would ensure that NATO has presence there, America has ownership over Greenland, and that with ownership will come security and a new golden dome in Greenland that will protect the Northern Hemisphere, including Canada and NATO countries. And that was very interesting to note. Trump did mention that he's not looking to use force. He's not looking at, using coercion as a technique, but he wants to use diplomacy. He wants to negotiate, and he wants to go to the table with the right people to find a path of America having Greenland, not an option of leasing it, but to really have it as part of its territory. So that is beyond understanding how that would happen. And this was a big strategic move as far as President Trump's signaling came through. Number two, President Trump also mentioned NATO, and it was really blunt to NATO countries, to France, to Germany, Italy, that the fact that America has been protecting and paying for NATO countries to be part of NATO, and that, because of President Trump, now countries are paying their dues, and now the world is a safer place. So the expectation President Trump laid out was that, hey, pay your share, do your due diligence, deliver your value, and let's all see a return on investment because of our involvement in NATO and to fund NATO. President key takeaway 3 was again on trade policies, tariffs, not much on tariffs, supply chains, energy independence. A big point on energy independence that America now has hyper-focused on the construction of nuclear power plants, and how President Trump spoke to all technology CEOs and leading CEOs in America and made sure that they came up with a plan for energy independence, given that AI is going to be a big, big sucker of this energy in the future, and how do we create that? And the plan to create new nuclear plants was something that the Trump administration has done at a record speed. So a lot of nuclear power coming to America, that was one part of it. On the energy independence part, there was also the fact that America has now tapped into resources in Venezuela, and also how that is changing global oil prices and prices of gas in America at a local level. President mentioned, gas prices are going lower, $1.80, $1.90, numbers around that stat across America, and that gas prices will continue to go down. Now, my question is, how will OPEC see that? How do other oil-producing countries see that surge of oil coming from Venezuela that now America is tapping into? And how does that change global oil pricing? Because what happens is that if you're an OPEC member, you all have a quota. You all are going to produce a certain amount of oil, and it really impacts countries that are heavy or high oil producing, countries like Iran, countries like Saudi Arabia, Nigeria. And so that needs to be seen, that the kind of the arrangement President Trump has now with Venezuela, what is it going to do to global oil prices, and how will other oil producing countries react to this thing? President also mentioned that Venezuela now is making more money that they've made in the last 20 years under the regimes that they've had, and that this is economically going to change the country. It's economically going to change Venezuela as a country because of economic progress and so on. Now, Venezuela is the world's one of the top 2-3 oil producing countries, undoubtedly. They have reserves beyond anything else. I believe they have more reserves than Saudi and other countries. And the question is that if Venezuela has had a really bad phase over the last 20 years, we hear all these things all the time, the amount of people that have left Venezuela, the state of affairs in Venezuela, the depreciation of the currency in Venezuela. This is the truth. The country has not done well over the last 20 years because of various dictatorships schemes and the corruption in the government, and that is a clear fact. The fact that nobody intervened over the last 20 years to change it. And despite different presidents coming in, corruption, internal political instability, the question is, why did nobody intervene until now, until President Trump went in, took the president and arrested him? Why has nobody intervened? Was it because everybody was happy with the way they were producing oil, the amount of oil they were producing? Was it just creating a stable energy market where everybody expected them to produce a certain amount of oil? And what did the oil industry have to do with the state of affairs in Venezuela? I know I'm treading into a political comment here, but that's what really literally happens behind the scenes. It's not just a person ruling a country, but it's also about who's backing them and why are they doing what they're doing. So all these things need to be kept in mind. Going back to what President Trump said in Davos was really, Venezuela is at a much better place, and they're going to work hand in hand with Venezuela's ruling party and leadership to make sure there's peace and progress in the country. A number of things that the president said were power play. A lot of them said that this is happening in the world because of America's stance and the current administration stance on policy, on regulations, on what they're doing. And I think some of the things that stood out for me were, number one, that the world right now has a fragmented global order. There is leadership coming out from everywhere. America has had a great role generally in global peace and prosperity, but regional power blocks are emerging. You look at Canada. Canada has sent a different signal yesterday with Prime Minister Carney talking a lot about Canada's independence and less reliance on America, which President Trump mentioned in his speech today, and wasn't happy about. We're looking at new supply chains coming from different markets. There was also discussion about European imports and exports and how goods and services from Europe are coming to America and how they're taxed and how they were never taxed before, and how America is kind of holding countries responsible and ensuring that they pay their dues. So there's a lot of that signaling that came from President Trump's conversation. I think really today's speech was some of the good things coming out from the speech were the fact that the president mentioned as a final verdict that he mentioned he doesn't want to use force on Greenland, so that has sent markets up. Number two, he's laid down kind of the point that America is looking at energy independence and a focus on investing in nuclear power. Power is a major concern right now with technology companies, and so that is good news. So we are going to potentially see more investments in energy, especially nuclear energy, not renewables, and he categorically mentioned how renewables were not the right thing. We're also seeing a global leveling of expectations, I believe. I didn't hear a lot about China and what China is doing or what they're not doing, but I did hear a lot of comments on peace and progress with Ukraine. Again, in the Middle East, he mentioned Palestine and Israel and other parts of the world. I believe President Trump's game at Davos has been to come on as a statesman, as a leader of the first world, as a G8 leader, as himself, with all his personality and charisma, and to lay down kind of the expectations that, hey, America is here to build a better world, to build a new world, to build better infrastructure, and to help everybody, get to peace, get to prosperity, and that his administration and himself would be there to do that and to ensure that this happens. So that's what came out from his speech. Those are my observations. I think it was a great start to the year, and now there's going to be many bilateral meetings and many discussions over today and tomorrow in Davos, and so we're going to continue hearing what happened at those meetings and what discussions took place, given that there's thousands of global industry leaders there from every sector: banking, finance, manufacturing, technology, industries from different countries, and pavilions from different countries, showcase of capabilities, and also presentations of investments in those countries. That's my analysis for President Trump's Davos speech. I'll catch you on the next video.